Hello everyone. Today we're going to present our project about suicide attempt in Tunja-Boyacá between 2020 and 2024. My partner's name is Maria Jose Botero Flores and my name is Germán Santiago Orbes Ruiz. In this presentation, we will analyze and using inferential statistics and Python to better understand patterns and proportion in the dataset. First, we will explain our research question. Then we will talk about the dataset and the statistical method we used. After that, we will show the Python code, the visualization, and the statistical results. And finally, we will present our conclusions. For this part of the project, we wanted to compare suicide attempt cases between men and women. Our research question is the proportion of suicide attempts in women significantly higher than in men in Tunja between 2020 and 2024? Our objective was analyze if women had a higher proportion of cases during this period using statistical methods and data visualization in Python.
Regional context. Suicide attempts are an important public health issue in Colombia and in the department of Boyacá. According to the official reports, hundreds of cases are reported every year, especially among young people in addiction. Recent studies show that women have had numbers of suicide attempts, particularly at young age. This makes it important to analyze whether this difference is statistically significant in Tunja. Risk factors. Socioeconomic. Economic difficulties such as employment, low income, and poverty increases stress and uncertainty, which can raise the risk of suicide attempts. Family and social context. Family conflicts, lack of emotional support, social isolation, and situations such as bullying or relationship breaks, breaks up can negatively affect emotional stability. Mental health and backgrounds disorders such as depression, anxiety, substance use, and previous attempts are key factors that increase risk. Demographic factors. Age, sex, marital status, and education level influence vulnerability, with attempts being more frequently among young people and women. Question number 1. What is the 95% confidential interval of the average age of the victim recorded in the database? The results show that the average age of the registered victims is 23.99 years. Also, the 95% confidence interval show that the real average age is probably between 23.26 and 24.71 years, which give us a fairly revealed estimate. Question number 2. What is the 95 confidence interval of the proportional of women appearing in the report cases? The results show that about 64% of the reported cases involved women. Also, the 95% confidence interval shows that the real proportion is probably between 60% and 66%. This means that women represents most of the registered case in the database. Question number 3. Is there sufficient statistical evidence to state that the average of the victims is different from 25 years? The result was lower than 0.05. We can say that 25 years is not the correct average according to the data. The average of the victims is close to 24 years. Question number 4. Does the proportion of people with previous suicide attempts exceeds 14% of registered cases? The results show that 44% of the registered individuals have previously suicide attempts. This means that repeat attempts are frequently in the population. Question number 5. Is there an association between the sex of the registered individuals and the method used in the reported case? The analysis shows a clear relationship between sex and the methods used in suicide attempts. The differences are statistically significant, which means they are not due to chance. For example, positioning is more common in women while having and jumping are more common in men.
For question 6, we wanted to know how precise the estimation of the average age was in our dataset. After analyzing 818 records, we found that the average age was approximately 24 years old. The standard deviation was 10.56, which means that the age were varied among the participants. We also calculated a margin of error of 0.72. This is a small value, so it tells us that our estimation is reliable and close to the real population average. This result is important because it helps us understand the age distribution in the dataset with a high level of confidence. For question 7, we calculated the sample size needed to estimate the average age with a confidence level of 95%. Using the standard deviation from the dataset, we obtain a required sample size of 108 people. However, our dataset contains 118 records, which is much larger than the minimum required sample. This means that the information used in our study is sufficient and reliable for statistical analysis. In other words, we had enough data to make valid conclusion about the population. For question 8, we compared the average age between men and women who registered suicide attempts. Using Python, we created a visualization to observe the distribution of ages for both groups. The graph helps us identify possible differences between men and women and makes the analysis easier to understand. This type of comparison is useful because it allows us to study patterns in the data and support our conclusion with statistical evidence. For question 9, we analyzed the proportion of psychoactive substance use, also called SPA, between men and women in the dataset. We used a statistical test and created a visualization in Python to compare the percentages for both groups. The graph helps us clearly observe the differences in substance use between men and women. This analysis is important because substance use can be related to mental health problems, and suicide attempts. And finally, for our last question, question number 10, we studied the relationship between psychoactive substance use and depressive disorder history. To do this, we used a graph that compares both variables and helps us understand if they are connected. This analysis is important because depression and substance use are factors that may influence suicide attempts. With this visualization, we can better understand the mental health condition present in the dataset and identify possible risk factors. To conclude, this project helped us understand how inferential statistics can be applied to real life situations using Python and data analysis. By studying suicide attempt records in Tunja and Boyacá, we analyzed important variables such as age, gender, psychoactive substance use, depressive disorders, and previous suicide attempts. The statistical methods and visualization allowed us to identify patterns and make conclusions based on reliable data. However, beyond the graphs and calculations, these topics also leaves an important reflection. Every number in the database represents a person who experienced a difficult moment in life. Mental health problems affect many people, especially young individuals, and in many cases they are not taken seriously enough. For these reasons, we believe that projects like these are important because they help create awareness and encourage prevention, support, and better attention to mental health in our communities. And yes, that's all. And thank you for your attention.